Hi everyone, I'm Whitney and I post a new tutorial every single Wednesday to help sewers and quilters of all skill levels learn new projects and techniques. This video is part of my sampler sew along. It is a block of the month style project where I'm sharing tutorials for 12 different traditional quilt blocks so that we can make a sampler style quilt together from start to finish. If you came across this video at random and you want to know more about the sew along, I will have a playlist with all of the videos in it linked down below in the video description. And also make sure to hit that red subscribe button while you're down there so you don't miss out on the rest of the videos in the sew along. Today's block is called Crystal Star. It was originally published in 1934. To make your Crystal Star block, you will need 3 fabrics, a light, a medium, and a dark. From the light, cut 4 squares measuring 3.5 by 3.5 inches and 6 measuring at least 4 by 4 inches. From the dark, 4 squares at least 4 by 4 inches, and from the medium, 2 squares of at least 4 by 4 inches. Now you'll notice that I said at least 4 inches, and that's because these are the squares that we'll be using to make our half square triangle units, and you can actually cut them even larger. I cut mine at 4.25 inches, and this just allows a little extra wiggle room in case your piecing isn't exactly spot on. You still have a little bit of extra room, and it all gets trimmed away later, so it is not a big deal. So especially if you're newer to quilting, go with at least like 4.25 on those larger squares so that you have that extra little bit to play around with. Lay out all of the larger white squares and place the other large squares on top so they are right sides together. By the way, if you're wondering why I have a glove on my hand, I had a sewing related injury that is in the process of healing. I'll have the video explaining all about it linked in the description box. Grab a ruler and marking tool of some sort. Mine is just a basic pencil, and mark a line diagonally from corner to corner on each set of pieces. Add pins to each set, holding the fabrics together, and sew 1/4 inch away from the marked line on both sides of it. Carefully cut right along the marked lines. With the darker fabric on top, open up each piece and press. This helps the seam allowances to be pressed toward the darker fabric and not show through. Now it's time to trim down all of those half square triangle units. I grabbed all of my cutting tools, including a cut resistant glove and a rotating cutting mat, and cut each square down to 3.5 inches. I'll have the supplies I'm using linked below as well. I really love this ruler because it has a diagonal line I can line up with the diagonal seam on the square. Then lay out all the pieces as shown. Lay the first 2 pieces right sides together and sew with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Press the seam allowance toward the darker fabric. Then place the next piece on right sides together and sew it to attach. Press and add the 4th piece to finish off the first row of the block. Continue the same process, sewing each piece together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance and pressing toward the darker fabric whenever possible until all 4 rows are pieced. All that's left is to sew the 4 rows together and give the seams another press with the iron, and the block is complete. It should measure 12.5 by 12.5 inches right now and will be 12 inches when sewn into the finished quilt. Make sure to take a picture of your block and share it using the hashtag #SamplerSewAlong because I love seeing what you all are making. And then you can go ahead and pick out your fabrics for the next block, which is shown here on the screen in gray. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a playlist full of all of the videos in the Sampler Sew Along. You can find it right over there. And until next time, happy sewing.